So I'm so delighted to have this opportunity to talk to the wonderful composer Roxanna Panufnik. Hello, Roxanna. How lovely to see you.
Hello, lovely to see you too, Ruth. How are you?
I'm very well, and I'm really enjoying learning your seasons. It's such an exciting project for me, and so we're hoping you might tell us a little bit more about it. Could you tell us sort of the inspiration behind the work and the four countries that you feature in these four seasons?
Sure. Well, it was originally commissioned by Tasman Little, and she wanted something that would complement Vivaldi's Four Seasons. And we wanted to make something that was very much a sort of 21st century take on the seasons concept. And this was in 2008 when we started. The four movements were written separately and premiered separately over several years. And the environment and the world we live in was obviously top on the news agenda and on our agenda as parents as well of young children. And so we decided we wanted to make it about the world. And I've always loved world music, and I'm from a very mixed background myself, and I've always had an interest in music from other countries, other cultures, and other faiths. So I thought, why don't we have a season, each season from a country that you might normally associate with it? So for instance, the reason we have spring in Japan is because everybody knows all over the world about the amazing blossom they have, the cherry tree blossom. So spring in Japan is all about that blossom and shoots beginning to evolve and buds bursting into bloom. And I also mix it with the song of the Japanese bush warbler bird as well. And autumn in Albania, autumn's a really important time in Albania, and there are loads of Muslim and Christian festivals, and they celebrate each other's festivals, which I think is so wonderful, and I wish we did this more here. But I was really inspired by that. And an Albanian choreographer friend of mine gave me this traditional dance called the Dance of Chimes, which is a fiendish rhythm. I had to have a lot of help transcribing it. And so that's very upbeat as you have the beginning of autumn, which is usually a busy time everywhere because you're harvesting and people are going back to school and all that kind of thing. And then it stops in the middle, and it has the solo violin has a solo which mimics the Albanian violin, the lahuta, which has two strings. So it's very high up and very soulful, and it takes us into this beautiful love song, traditional Albanian love song from the south, in Vlora, near a town called Vlora. Which sort of takes us into the end of autumn where leaves are falling off. It even has this beautiful ornamentation which reminds me very much of how, when leaves fall off trees, they don't just go plop like that. They kind of sort of circle in the wind, and that's what the ornamentation reminds me of. And it finishes very quietly and peacefully. And then winter is snow, snow, snow. And I found this fabulous Tibetan folk song that the nomads in the East sing, and it's centuries old. And so I used that for Tibetan winter, and all the sort of ornamentation that a singer would use, I put into the violin. And we have drifting snow again. Snow sort of swirls and falls very slowly and gently, and that's Tibetan winter. And I also use the Tibetan singing bowl.
Yes, I was hoping you were going to mention that.
Yeah, not in a conventional sense. The conventional sense is that generally you stroke the outside and it produces this amazing long sound, but when you strike it, the sound also lasts an incredibly long time, and it's very haunting, and it all combines to sort of create this feeling of solitude, really.
And what about Indian summer?
Well, again, slightly tongue-in-cheek, I'm taking liberties because Indian summer, of course, means here in the UK a warm autumn.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it actually is the warmth and the heat and the color of India that I draw on for this. And I use Indian modes, Indian scales, and sort of slightly Bhangra-ized tabla rhythms. It's very rhythmical. But the scales, the Indian scales, really take off towards the end, and we finish with these sort of tumbling, what sounds like English Anglican church bell patterns, but they're in Indian modes, and that's how it finishes in a burst of colour.
Amazing. I'm really, as I say, very excited to be lucky enough to be performing it soon. What about the whole influence of Vivaldi's Four Seasons? I mean, was it just the inspiration behind the work, or were you actually influenced by some of his ideas or structure or anything like that?
No, it was just the concept really. But whereas he has a whole concerto for each season, I just have one sort of 4 or 5 minute movement for it. And so it was just really because we also have Piazzolla's wonderful seasons, which I think you're doing in the program as well.
We are
And
indeed.
and I think the original idea for Tasman was that she wanted a collection of seasons that she could sort of mix and match.
Yes, no, absolutely. And in fact, I've come up with the crazy idea, if it's okay with you, that we might intersperse your seasons with Piazzolla's seasons in the same way that Gidon Kramer intersperses the Piazzolla with the Vivaldi. And I think it's a really lovely way to kind of bring the listener in and out of these two different sound worlds. Well, I mean, of
That's a
course,
great
well,
idea.
eight,
Yeah.
I should say 8 different sound worlds, really. Certainly your seasons have a lot of contrast in them. In fact, the Piazzolla has a lot of the same kind of sounds in it. So I think it's going to be amazing to have that juxtaposition of the two composers.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what that sounds like.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I wondered, all this talk about seasons and all these pieces written by you, by Vivaldi, by Piazzolla. Do you have a favorite season, a favorite time of the year yourself?
Actually, it's spring, and I'm so excited because now I am watching for every tiny sign, and the tiny signs are coming. So our days are definitely longer. It's getting darker later. I can see little shoots in the ground. I can see that the twigs and the branches on the trees are beginning to get a little bit frilly. And definitely, definitely spring. It's such an exciting time, and I love it. It's full of hope, and I think it will be for all of us now in our current circumstances. This spring 21 is going to be the biggest season of hope ever.
Roxanna, thank you so much for talking to me. It's just an absolute pleasure to hear everything you have to say. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.